Everyone says that the Mediterranean is crazy expensive and that you'll get bankrupt if you come in with your sailboat, but we found out it's really not true. We cruised the Med in high season and we are now settled in for low season, so we have a pretty good idea of what it's like out here now. Here's the deal. There's lots of very expensive marinas in the Med, especially in the tourist hotspots, and in some places the cost of life is quite high. But it doesn't mean that you have to spend a lot of money to cruise the Med. In fact, we did it for a whole season and we came out spending exactly the same as we spent when cruising the Atlantic coast. Between April and October, we sailed from Portugal all the way to South Sardinia, and we are now settled in for a low season in Cagliari in Sardinia in Marina del Sole. So how did we cruise on a budget in the Mediterranean during high season? First of all, we avoided marinas at all costs in high season, or as much as we could. And truth to be told, we used more marinas this year than last year. And that's because we had some emergency maintenance to do on the boat and my family came to visit us. What we did in terms of marinas was to really shop around. So we looked up the prices of all the marinas in the area where we were before booking one, and that meant that we could get the best price in the area and also ask for a discount, trying to sort of mention the price that someone else could do, and that really helped us keeping the costs down. When people say that there's no anchorages in the Med, they are simply lying or they haven't been looking, because we have been anchoring out all summer and we could still be going on in the winter if we really wanted to. There are so many resources to find the best anchorages. For example, you could look up the sailing forums, the sailing Facebook groups, apps such as Navily where there's lots of different anchorages listed. The pilot books, they're okay, there's some anchorages in there. And as well, of course, ask other cruisers who are cruising around and they might have been coming from a different direction from you. We found plenty of anchorages, and when we went to marinas we really didn't need to because there was no anchorage. We just needed to go because of some logistics problems. There's also another myth that all the anchorages are filled up with mooring balls, and we found that to be completely untrue. There are some really famous anchorages that now have paid for mooring balls in them, but that's just because they are so popular that so many people want to go there. So if you want to anchor there, just go there in the low season and then just use the other anchorages available, which are excellent and as beautiful as the famous ones, I promise. So we just wanted to give you an example of what cruising on a budget in the Med is like and how much you could end up spending. So we will share with you our expenses for the high season and our winter deal as well. And just as a reference, we cruised from Portugal all the way to Sardinia through the Balearic Islands. So that was our route. A couple of premises here. We cruise on a 26-foot catamaran, and therefore our prices reflect that. And we haven't included two costs in our budget. Boat insurance, which is £308 per year for our boat, and health insurance, which we don't need as we're Europeans travelling in Europe. Oh, and all prices are in British pounds. Now let's look at how much we spent over the high season. Between April and September, we spent a minimum of £498 and a maximum of £755. Our peak spending was July, when we had to go to a marina to order some parts and fix our VHF antenna. Our total spending for 6 months in the Med was £3,648, which equates to an average of £608 per month, or $800. So we definitely stayed within our budget, which is between £500 and £700 per month, even though we had to use marinas for boat projects and to meet family a couple of times. Now let's look at our typical monthly spending, bearing in mind that we have some fixed costs. Each month we spend £78 on mobile contracts and data and on software we need for work. Here's a typical breakdown of our monthly expenses. Our biggest expense is always food. Then we roughly spend 5% on boat maintenance, fixed costs and meals out or mooring. 4% on petrol, 6% on propane and 2% on laundry, our one luxury. Finally, let's look at some examples for our costs. On our 26-foot catamaran, we spent £7 per night for a moor and boarding and dratch in May, £17 per night in the marina in Carlo Forte in June, and £40 for a seafood dinner in Soyer. Finally, we have shopped around way in advance and secured a winter deal in Cagliari for £1,144. It's very common to book a marina berth for the whole of the winter in the Mediterranean. A lot of cruisers just fly home, and in our case we wanted to have the boat in a sheltered spot and to travel as well because we have work and other commitments. Knowing that the boat is safe is very important to us. Here it's important to say that even though we'll have to spend money on the marina in the winter, roughly 200 something per month, we'll still be able to fit within our budget because being in this marina means that we have access to a cheaper supermarket in the low season, and that will bring the costs sort of at the same level. So if you're planning on cruising in the Med, don't be put off by these urban myths because, as you can see, it's totally possible to cruise on a budget. If you want to see what that looks like, then subscribe to our channel and watch us sail in the Med.